Yo, back with another video. Still, in light of the situation with Donald Trump and our president here in South Africa, the sanctions and the rumors going on that we black people are busy uprooting white people out of their homes, and there's no footage of that. In light of all of this and the sanctions coming from these lies, we have a leader of a political party in South Africa, the Minister of Sport, Art and Agriculture, saying something over here which I think you will find interesting. There's two parts. One, he says that South Africa should consider licking or kissing the ass of Donald Trump in the United States. And number two, his party is not a democracy, it's a dictatorship. I think you will start to understand where words like these come from. There's a certain type of man who believes in those who are very, very big and those who are very, very small, and believes that those who are small should be bowing to the big. I think he's not playing when he says that there should be ass kissing to Donald Trump, because he's got his party members and those who are following metaphorically kissing his ass because there's no democracy there.
There's so much we could talk about, but our country is in a fascinating moment, and you've made some comments about President Trump, and I'm so interested in what you think of this moment in our country, with the US being quite aggressive in its rhetoric towards South Africa, but at the same time, we can't deny that we need the US. So how are you thinking about this moment, especially as the president said we won't be bullied recently?
Yeah, no, I think the president is right that he shouldn't be bullied. No president should be bullied. And I think for me, that was brilliant what he said. But I also want to say that America needs South Africa in particular. And South Africa needs America in particular. It's our second biggest trading partner. But I think where I think America is wrong and where South Africa is wrong, it's number one, America believes this nonsense. And they've used improper channels. That's not how you speak to another president.
Okay, pause for a moment. He believes that the president responded in a manly way, from what we're hearing. And he believes that the lies that the sanctions are based on are definitely lies. There's two polar opposite opinions on this. One says the white people are definitely suffering right now, today, outside in the rain, currently, on a Thursday afternoon at 15:26. Others say there's no such. So I think we can have some hope in Gayton Mckenzie's senses, because he says that this is all total nonsense. But listen to where it all starts to stray and it becomes confusing.
The president shouldn't read on the internet what you think or your dissatisfaction.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing America did wrong. But the biggest sin, I think, was to believe this fringe racist that goes on and say white people are under siege. That's not true. That's not true.
Not true, not true, twice.
But I think where we have erred as a country, in my opinion, Burkina Faso or any other country, or Lesotho, or Lesotho gives us water, so it's a wrong example. Burkina Faso cannot wake up tomorrow and tell us, you can't do this, you can't do that.
Sure.
But you see, America gives us 17% of our funding for the fight against HIV/AIDS come from America. AGOA is a concession that Americans have made.
Yeah.
Now, when a person gives you money, people get angry with me, but I love.
Let me finish his sentence. When a person gives you money, they own you. He stopped there and segued, diverted slightly instead of going at it straight. But keep on following him. In not so direct words, he's still saying what he was originally saying.
Look, I know the rules of life that fits me. I don't have gray rules.
Yeah.
I don't believe life is gray. When a person gives you money, you cannot ignore that person, and that person has a right to ask you questions.
Sure.
I do think that we need to address the Americans and try to fix the relationship. The last thing on this issue I want to say is, there's a lot of people that said I'm ass leaking. Maybe they're right. I think maybe they're right.
So people have told him that he's an ass licker. And he says, perhaps you're correct. Remember, he said that Cyril Ramaphosa is good to stand up as a man. And he says that the US and Donald Trump's sanctions are based on lies. And he said that twice. But now, in the face of lies and what he calls fringe racists who have made statements and conspiracies and sent them out to the United States, he says in the light of all of this situation that he clearly understands departed on false premises, he says we should, man, be ass licking there or something.
Right. I can't argue that. But you see, a leader does not make you an ordinary person. It makes you a person leading ordinary people. A leader must not have an ego. A leader must say, my people are going to die. People are going to die if they stop PEPFAR.
Sure.
Doctors are going to lose their jobs. Nurses are going to lose their jobs. And if we lose AGOA, a lot of industries, businesses is going to die. Now as a leader, I need to put that before my ego. If it means I have to lick us for my people to stay alive, I as Gayton Mckenzie, not a GNU, I would do that. If it means I got to lick us for industries to survive and people to survive.
Even when people concoct and make shit up, even if they just fabricate things, you'd be out here licking ass the whole time. You know, maybe the president of South Africa should make you the deputy president. And then on the day of the actual ass-licking event, the president should get an absent letter. He should stay home sick. And you should go up into the Oval Office there, go around the back to the toilets, enter a cubicle there with Donald Trump, do your thing and come back. Take one for the team, dog. That's the leader of the Patriotic Alliance.
I can't be arrogant. You see, it's like a poor man's arrogance. It's a curse. No, if you're poor and you're arrogant, it's a curse.
So when you're poor, you have to be humble.
It's a curse. I don't care, but you have nothing.
We don't care about the lies being told, man. You see? You're telling us that we must be humble to lies. We don't care, Gayton. That's for sure.
You gotta have, and these are things that's uncomfortable to say,
Absolutely.
but necessary to say.
And maybe it's our own fault because over the last 30 years, we've allowed ourselves to become so weak that we can now be pushed around.
Yeah, but I think it's you know, what people need to understand about South Africa and what we as the GNU need to understand and learn very fast. We are the wealthiest country in the world. You see, and I'm not speaking as a person that reads about minerals.
Yeah.
I've made my money in minerals.
Yeah.
So he's venturing off now about his money. You see, he's juxtaposing. He gave an example of those who are without money and the humility they should have. And now he's placed himself outside of that bracket. Remember, it all sounded at first like he's part of the collective that will kiss ass. And he said that as a leader, he would do that. But now he's off-ramping by reminding you that he's rich, and that's been the disclaimer all along. The disclaimer is that he's rich, he would kiss ass figuratively really, but the kissing of the ass was actually meant for the poor people that he mentioned, and he said they're arrogant if they don't really kiss ass. What are politicians made out of, ladies and gentlemen? Who is Gayton Mckenzie? Where does he spend his time? Where has he been? Is he an alcoholic? Is he a narcissist? Is he abusive? Is he healthy? Is he a God-fearing man? Is he humble? Or is he an arrogant man? Who does he humble himself to?
I've become rich because of minerals. We have the biggest, we are number one when it comes to chrome. We're number one when it comes to platinum. We're number one when it comes to gold. I can go on and on. And I think coal, I think we're number 3, if I'm not mistaken. You know, iron ore, I think we're number 1. We are a wealthy country. But it doesn't serve it down to the people. And this is a time where we as the GN.
So let's just stop it right there. We came here for his initial utterances.
We have leaders that don't have
In what way must people kiss ass, Gayton? How? For what reason? You haven't explained that, but you know, talk shows and talk show hosts, I see Sizwe, the doctor there, a man from Harvard with a Harvard doctorate or a PhD. The brother there should be asking this man, what do you mean? But he says, well, we're weak. Perhaps we deserve a leader like yourself who is an authoritarian who believes in other authoritarians kissing the chain of ass going upwards. But he's saying, you know what? Perhaps some of us have been weak over the last 30 years and yeah, maybe you're right. Oh, Dr. Sizwe, I can't believe this. So we are now going into the second portion of Gayton Mckenzie's statements and utterances. Let's listen to this portion about his party, whether it's a democracy or not.
We have leaders that don't have a outgoing personality or they're not flamboyant. But he's a leader. Now you want to put him against the one that's flamboyant, outgoing, but there's nothing here. So in PA, there's no democracy. And I say that with my chest.
In the Patriotic Alliance, they don't have a democracy. You see? And you know what? He is, perhaps Dr. Sizwe Mpofu is responding like this, knowing that there are other fiefdoms out there. There are other cults out there that are not really admitting to the fact that they are cults. Look at what has happened with the EFF, for example, a party which I was a member and supporter of. Look at what has happened to Dr. Mbuyiseni Ndlozi. Look at the style with which he was removed. Look at the accusations. Look at the intelligence report that it was claimed contains information about him being a traitor towards the EFF. Look at his suspension towards the elective conference. Look at all of that and look at the humble guy that he is as he hung up his beret and his overalls and he said, I'm backing away. You can clearly tell that this was a good guy, intelligent beyond the party's ability to hold him, but he humbled himself and he kept himself within that company. Probably even licking ass. Julius's ass. It seemed like Mbuyiseni was somebody who figuratively kissed ass and let Julius be the big guy. Right? So maybe Dr. Mpofu Walsh, when he says, at least you are somebody who can say that out loud and you're not hiding it. Has he said that yet, or am I just getting ahead?
Sure.
I now see MK is following us of no elective conferences. MK is following PA. They're also now saying there's no elective conferences.
Yeah.
By PA, we will never have an elective conference. Elective conference does not put jobs on the table. Our people will say, our party is democratic.
Yes. So, Dr. Mpofu has not given the compliment as yet. I just got ahead of myself. But here comes now the broader explanation from Gayton and the examples that he chooses to give about other parties that don't have an elective conference. What is this telling you? This is telling you that the world and leaders, men who are leaders, people in positions of power, once upon a time, they shunned the system in China where there's no elections. That was said to be a communist authoritarian regime, and those in the West who say they practice true democracy look down on what the Chinese are doing. But now that Elon Musk is in government and so many Silicon Valley super rich are pulling the government this way and that and flexing the government and twisting and contorting the government to make laws that suit them and make them richer. Now that the Americans are starting to also embrace the style of oligarchs like Roman Abramovich, the former Chelsea owner. If you knew about Russia today and from way back, you'd understand that there were people called the oligarchs, the oligarchy. It's a layer of very rich people who are richer than the politicians themselves, and it's actually them, the people who are ruling the government, not the politicians, not the democratically elected people. Does Russia have elections? Well, whatever, man. I'm not a politician. My facts are rusty. But all that I'm saying about this is those styles of leadership that were frowned upon. Oligarchs were seen to be people who are the ultra corrupt, the super fat cats, the biggest social grant beneficiaries in the nation. And so now you are having the biggest social grant beneficiary out there, Elon Musk, and it's starting to look like the US is slowly changing songs. There's a smooth crossfade from democracy to allowing oligarchs to stand around. And maybe that's why you're listening and hearing Gayton Mckenzie and men like him also start to slowly transition away from a democracy. Now, men are not shy to say that, hey, we run a cult out here. And we're not like both Julius and them who are hiding that fact. I think the comment is still to be made by Dr. Sizwe Mpofu Walsh. Forgive me, I got ahead of myself.
You people have jobs with your democracy.
You know, I think people would much rather you say that with your chest and explain your position than pretend to be democratic or do some sham election and then not actually really be democratic. And your brand of politics.
So, yeah. So I totally condemn that response from the doctor there. I totally condemn that response. But I understand that he's trying to stay in favor with Gayton Mckenzie. If you had seen the beginning of the interview, he referred to a previous interview when Sizwe Mpofu was host of a show on the SABC, and he interviewed Gayton Mckenzie regarding some community pools and his utterances about unplugging machines or foreigners if they were, on life support in a bed and a South African needed to be attended to. He was asking him those questions back then, and back then he was pretty much cooking him, put him on the stand. And I guess now he's just letting him talk, letting him have his way. But I say no, man. Condemnation to authoritarianism, wherever it rears its ugly head. Don't allow it. There's another character, I'll piece his video right here, Nhlanhla Lux, who said that South Africans do not need a democracy, and what they need actually is a dictatorship. Here comes the video.
This country doesn't need democracy.
This country doesn't need democracy.
So Nhlanhla Lux was on DJ Spoo's The Hustler's Corner recently for an interview, and it seems he doesn't believe that South Africans need a democracy.
Somebody else watches this interview and hears and he says, you can't say politics irritate you, but you're making a figure of speech. You said, if I become the president of this country, but the democratic system says for you to be president of the country, you need to participate in politics.
Sure. This country doesn't need democracy. What this country needs is this country and continent needs is what this country and continent used to have. You need half democracy and you need half a dictator that loves its people and understands what's happening underground, on the ground, and in the sky. So you need someone who will say that this is not happening. We don't need a meeting and a process where you have a bunch of ignorant people who don't even take care of their own kids claiming to take care of the country.
You hear that? So, if you haven't been noticing, there is a crossfade, there's a changing of songs. Democracy is getting old. A new world order, a new system where the others are small and the others are really big, the others are kissing ass and the others are always kicking head. We are slowly being introduced into systems like that. And note Gayton Mckenzie being a primarily colored, nationalist, centrist party. He's saying that we don't have a democracy, but look what we are going to produce. We're going to produce jobs for our people. He's talking about the colored people. And he says that those who keep to democracy will be without jobs. Now, this is a man in a democratic South Africa where people are equal. But listen to him. He's proposing a situation or a possible reality in the future where we are so unequal. Some have jobs because they are willing to kiss ass, while some are unemployed because they follow a democracy. Let's just finish listening to this. I hope my condemnation of this is well understood.
Your brand of politics has been educational to me because it feels like we're in an authenticity vacuum. Like politicians just say what they think people would like to hear. And you've pierced through by just being you. And no one can deny that you're one of the most well-known, popular politicians. Where did that brand come from? Is that just like your authentic self? Did you think about how to position yourself? And when you got into the ministry, I was expecting, okay, now we might hear more like normal political speak, but you've managed to maintain authenticity while being in state office. How do you do that?
He is a fire-breathing dragon from a prison somewhere, and he carries this alpha male, red pill personality that you can see in Donald Trump and Elon Musk. If you've seen the movement called the Red Pill, there's been a movement, a very open one, led by the Andrew Tates. There's been a movement to radicalize men into not a political philosophy, but a masculine patriarchal philosophy. Men have been gassed up and they've been getting pumped up recently with this whole big balls, my balls in your face ego. And so Gayton Mckenzie embodies that. If you've seen Elon Musk and his tweets when he was fighting Apple, he posted some picture where there was this huge pit bull and it was so big and so tall, and there was this other small dog underneath the pit bull, and the pit bull pretty much had its balls parked on top of the small dog's face. That's the red pill macho BS that Gayton Mckenzie is a part of. But I'm not condemning his whole personality and his ministry. He's worked, he's campaigned, he's asked a certain people to trust him, and he's a democratically elected somebody. So big ups to him, big ups to people who believe in him, big ups to the work that he's doing. But listen closely if you are not a cult member and an ass kisser of his. If you're a black person and you're not a colored who is part of his community and his cult, listen closely and you may learn something. But yeah, let's just pretty much wrap up the video right there. As a parting video, let me share with you a man by the name of Bernie Sanders. He comes from the Obama party. He comes from the party that is trying to be friendly to people of all colors, the party that is pro the working people, the party that is pretty much on the left. If you've heard and seen the EFF over the couple of years, they were aligning themselves pretty much with this man and the Democratic Party in the United States. So Bernie here pretty much always holds a position where he's looking out against capitalists and tyrant oligarchs who may take advantage of the small people, whether as their employees or by total abuse of power. So as we wrap up, and you've been keeping an open mind about Gayton Mckenzie, his attitude, why is he posturing rich and giving the poor advice, where does his philosophy actually stand in real life, listen to what Bernie Sanders is saying about men like this and the future in terms of the transition that I told you we are on. But nobody is really tracking that the song is changing from democracy to authoritarianism. Listen to who Gayton Mckenzie and Donald Trump and Elon Musk and Gali Grill and Ernst Ruetz are.
Mr. President, we are living in an extremely dangerous time. And future generations will look back at this moment, what we do right now, and remember whether we had the courage to defend our democracy against the growing threats of oligarchy and authoritarianism. They will remember whether we stood with President Abraham Lincoln at Gettysburg, who in 1863, looking out over a battlefield where thousands of people had died, thousands of soldiers died in the fight against slavery, and he stated that, quote, "This nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that a government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth." Do we stand with Lincoln's vision of America?
The government of the people, by the people, shall stand, and it shall never fall until the end of days. And then you've got, quick rewind, Gayton Mckenzie saying that no democracy. And I say that with confidence. Why? Because he knows that there's a worldwide shift slowly from what the West used to hate about the Russians and the Chinese. Now the West is sort of going that way. And you may see oligarchs, especially the Silicon Valley heavyweights, the big riches, they may never leave power ever again. No one will ever get richer than the Silicon Valley titans. The wealth is theirs to keep on growing. So what is going to happen with elections going forward? If oligarchs put their nails so far deep into this administration, when the next administration comes in, it's just going to have to kiss the ring of the current oligarchy. Keep listening.
America, or do we sit idly by and allow this country to move into a new vision, and that is a government of the billionaire class, by the billionaire class, for the billionaire class. But it is not just oligarchy that we should be concerned about.
The billionaire class, the rich. Did you hear Gayton Mckenzie saying, I made my money, I am rich? He is dog whistling to other oligarchs out there who want to join hands and implement this new system. He's shouting out to them to say, hey, look, I'm a man over here who has the same mind as you, and I've got a group of people right here who are tied up under my spell, living within my cult. I can control a certain people. I am showing to you my CV, my resume, my capacity to be able to run this system with you as we go into the future, and the Antichrist is ushered in to end the days, and the Lord returneth.
Not just the reality that today 3 people own more wealth than the bottom half of American society, 170 million. 3 people, more wealth than the bottom 170 million Americans. It is not just that the gap between the very, very rich and everyone else is growing wider, and it is not just that we have more income and wealth inequality today than we have ever had.
And Gayton Mckenzie saying the poor should be humble and keep quiet while the rich get richer.
On top of all of that, the reality is that today we are moving rapidly under President Trump toward authoritarianism. More and more power resting in fewer and fewer hands. Mr. President, as we speak right now, Elon Musk, the wealthiest man on the planet, is attempting to dismantle major agencies of the federal government which are designed to protect the needs of working families and the disadvantaged. These agencies were created by the U.S. Congress, and it is Congress's responsibility to maintain them, to reform them, or to end them. It is not Mr. Musk's responsibility.
So, let me rest my case so that the video is short and I can have your attention for the next video. Please, if you've enjoyed this, if you've learned something, press the subscribe button. Please do it right now, and hit the like button as well. If you'd like to engage and you'd want me to know that you are out there and you're learning something and I'm not alone speaking to the mic all by myself in a room, you can comment and I can know that you are my brother, you are my sister, that we are alive, that we are not part of an undemocratic cult, neither in the Patriotic Alliance or the Economic Freedom Fighters. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll see you next time.